Hi, Helen. I'm stuck on something and would love some clarification. What is perceiving bodily sensations and/or thoughts? Is it the Noumenon perceiving, or is a body perceiving? Also, is there anything the Noumenon cannot perceive without a body? When I inquire, it seems that it's all the Noumenon perceiving, which is pretty radical. I hope you can help here. Thank you so much. Lots of love. So this word, first of all, Noumenon, if you don't like it, it's totally okay. You can swap it for awareness, self, presence, consciousness, beingness, whatever you want. Noumenon just means, it was a word that helped me get beyond my thoughts about what my real self actually was and into a direct experience. It just means that which is not a phenomenon, that in which all phenomena seem to arise is the Noumenon. That which doesn't have any shape or size or any definable characteristics is the Noumenon. But if you don't like it, it's okay. Just substitute awareness or whatever you want to say. So, what is perceiving bodily sensations and/or thoughts? Is it the body that's perceiving this? Or is it something different? Is it the Noumenon, the self, the real self? Let's have a look at that right now. Let's go into an experience of what that actually is. And we say, my thoughts, when we say my mind, my emotions, my body, when we know that our body is hot or cold or comfortable or uncomfortable, restless, peaceful, what is it that knows that? What is it that perceives all of those things? What is it that's hearing what your ears are hearing right now? Your ears are hearing something. These words, it's happening in the body. Vibrations are going in through your ears. But what is it that recognizes the sound of the words? Is it something to do with the body? Is consciousness a function of the body? Or is it something much greater than that? And can we come to prove that here and now? So, when you see a thought in your mind, where are you looking from? What is it that's looking? Very simple thing. A thought arises. I don't understand what Helen's saying. Or I do understand. Or I really wish I was at home. Or whatever it is that's happening. What is it that sees that thought? We say I, but can we find where that is when we actually look? Where is this I that says my mind, my thoughts? Where actually is it when we look? There's a sense, and I looked like this the first time, there was a sense that it was here. I am here. I am aware of my thoughts. There's awareness of thoughts or sensations, as you said here in this question. I know what's happening to my body. I know what's happening to my mind. I know if it's noisy or quiet. Where is that knowingness? And just slowing down with me now to actually look, where actually is it? Is it only in my head, that knowingness? Can I prove that it's only in my head? Or when I actually look for where the awareness is, where the knowingness is that says my mind, my thoughts. Something sees thoughts come and go. What actually is that when you look? Can you find, when you really look, a someone living in this body? Can you find a someone, a person, a separate being, actually inside the body? Something is perceiving and it's also inside the body, but is that all the only thing it is? Is that the only place it is? Something that we've called I. Something that says my mind, my thoughts, my emotions, my sensations. And it doesn't matter how many times we've looked like this and how clearly we've seen You can always look again. It's delightful to look again, see clearer each time. And in a strange kind of way with self-inquiry, not finding an answer, not finding a separate being, actually, there's something here that I've called me. Can I find where it stops, where it starts? Can I really say with certainty that it's only as big as my body, that it's kind of superimposed into my body shape? Or is it something different that have an edge? Can you really say when you look that you know where you start and stop? You're also in this body. You're looking through. You know what your eyes are seeing. You know what your ears are hearing. You know what sensations are happening. You know how your body feels. Where else are you? Where do you stop? Just actually looking with me now. Can I actually find where I stop and start? What is this thing that's perceiving? Sensations, thoughts, sense perception. Can you find an entity called me when you really look? And shockingly, first time I looked like this, I couldn't find anyone. There was nothing that I could find that was a me that I could point to and say, that's where it is. Something was present that I've always called me that I just assumed was a person, a separate being. When I really looked, I couldn't find any boundary where this me started and stopped. I couldn't find any defining line where I stop and you start. It was really strange. When I began to get interested then in what it actually was that was perceiving, if it wasn't a separate me, if there wasn't an entity called me, separate to everything else, what actually am I then became really important, actually, because my whole life, my whole awakening, my dreams, my goals, my desires were all based on this fictional character that I'd taken myself to be. And where does that leave me then without that fictional character? And what is it I'm calling me, really? And how does that change my life for the better? To see that there isn't an entity perceiving. When I began to look at what I actually am, and you can do this right now, can you find a thing, an object? Can you find something that you can point at in a particular location? I don't mean to be rude pointing at you all. Can you say that you're over here or over there? Or can you really say I'm only here? When you actually look at what's perceiving through the body. Something is using the body to hear these words and to see this image, whatever your eyes are seeing. Do you know where you actually are and aren't? And can we get more and more comfortable with not really knowing that, actually? Our whole life has usually been oriented on this idea that this is where I am. And everyone else is separate to me, and everything else is completely different to me, other than me. What if that whole premise for our version of reality is not really how it is? And this is really shocking, probably said before for me, but it was also really refreshing because I tried so hard to fix the problems of this me. So hard, as I'm sure everyone has. This me had tried to feel worthy, tried to feel accepted, tried to feel loved, valued, appreciated, wanted, needed, all of that, safe, in control, all of the things that the me wants. a separate me. But if that's not who you are, what problem does that leave you with? What actually are you then, if you're not a someone? What actually do we find then when we look? If we don't find a someone, what do we find? We find something that isn't a thing. There isn't a word for something that isn't a thing, really, other than our real self. We find a version of me that's different to what we expected. We find a me that is completely insubstantial and intangible. A me that is not at all a form. It's using the form, but it's not a form. It's not in some place or in not present in other places. It's not here or over there. It doesn't have any characteristics like that. Has more in common with the air in the room than with any of the objects in the room. It's more like the air. You can't say the air is over here or over there. It's everywhere it can be, isn't it? Everywhere, equally. And it's indivisible. Indivisible. So this is shocking then, kind of good, because we need to be shocked out of our idea of what we think we are. We even use this idea of a me, a separate me, to try to get to awakening. How successful is that going to be, using this fictional character to try to reach this imaginary goal where I'm finally free of this fictional character, where I'm finally free of this fictional character that doesn't really exist? But the tools and the methods we're using to try to get free are all employed by this fictional character that we keep imagining out of sheer force of habit. So if there's no one appearing inside the great space of being, inside consciousness, there's only consciousness. If there isn't a phenomenal me, there's my body, and then there's something that isn't a phenomenon, isn't an object, isn't a thing, that is me. Doesn't have any shape, any form. I can't touch it or point to it. I can only know it's here because I'm here. I am here. That much I know for certain. Where is that here though? How far does that reach? If I got up and walked right to the other side of the room now, I got to the side, I'd still feel like I'm here. I could never get over there. Wherever I go, it feels like here. Don't try hard to understand this. Don't struggle to understand this. Just listening, being willing to challenge ideas is enough. Ideas that we've had. What if you aren't at all what you thought you were? Is that scary or exciting or both, as it was for me? Some sense that I was leaving everything I've known about myself behind, in a way, and moving forward into something that I couldn't really describe with my usual tools. I couldn't say, it's this color and it's this big and this is what I look like. I can only say what my body looks like. I can only say what my mind's appearing like and my emotions. Can't say anything about me, really, actually. What can you tell me now about yourself? All of your history and dreams and goals and unfulfilled desires have all been pinned on this fictional character that is definitely absent without leave when we look for it. So what actually is perceiving the body? What is using the body? What is knowing thoughts? What is it about you that knows the meaning of these words? Something knows, something is aware, something is sentient, isn't it, about you? And it isn't a separate being. Let's experience it one more time. What actually do you find when you look for yourself? Not your thoughts, not your body, not your emotions. The one that says I or me, what actually is that? My first response was, I don't find anything. There's nothing here. There's nothing here that I can point to that's me. And that's correct. There is nothing here that is you. You are that space in which things appear, that beingness in which thoughts arise and recede back into. The very space in which your body is sitting is you. Not limited at all. So what is it that's perceiving bodily sensations and thoughts? Is it the Noumenon perceiving, or is it a body perceiving? Well, when you look, what's perceiving? How do you know what thoughts are there or not there? If there's a state of real confusion after we've sat here for 20 minutes, how do you know that something's confused? With what faculty? Is it a thing, like a body, or is it not a thing? Did you even know that you can exist as not a thing? That was really new for me when I first got that. I don't have to. There's more than just things, objects. There's another version of me. Also, is there anything that the Noumenon cannot perceive without a body? Well, we could say that without the body, it can't perceive objects and sense perception and all of that. We could say that. But that's not really true, because what the body actually is and what the objects that we think we're seeing actually are is also you. So it's one of those really irritating yes and no questions. Answers, rather. We think we have a body. We think that this is a body and that we're using it to perceive through our senses. That's the common myth, isn't it? And that what we're seeing with our senses and hearing and touching and tasting are objects, things. What if that's not true either? If you really want to carry on down the rabbit hole, what if this isn't a body? What if it's a shape made by you, formlessness, condensed down into a form, but still made of the same original formlessness, not actually ever turning into a thing, just looking like a thing? And then further down the rabbit hole still, whatever we're perceiving through our senses, what is actually all of that? Is that objects too? If you're not a separate being, then neither is anybody else, actually, really. If we're not separate now, if there's no line between us really in our beingness, if there's no boundary, then are you you or am I you? Are you me? Or it all gets a bit suspect. There's just the one of us with all of these shapes we call bodies appearing here and everywhere. So the first understanding will be, no, I can't really perceive objects without a body. But then the deeper understanding is there's nothing to perceive, actually. There's no thing in existence to perceive. There's only you and all the shapes that you're making. And you've made this shape a human body so that you can come to recognize what I'm saying, understand finally, after a long period of trying to figure out what we are, whether in this body or previous ones. When I inquire, it seems that it's all the Noumenon perceiving, which is pretty radical. It's radical, but it also is true, isn't it? Reality is not at all what we think it is, ever. So if all of this is really confusing, or you got stuck at some point, or you can't prove that you're not a thing, or wherever you feel stuck, then do ask for help. I am here. But you don't have to work hard also. If you don't feel that you can ask or speak up, just a curiosity to want to know as clearly as I've seen it, to want to see with the clarity and the wisdom that the sages have had over the eons. I want to know that too, and I want to know it with the same certainty. I can never doubt it again. I want to know it with such conviction that nothing can shake that, ever. Not when anybody says anything rude to me, or when some emotion comes up inside, or when I don't have enough of something, and when my body feels ill. I still know with utter conviction. Eventually, when my body is dying, when the shape is returning back to the shapelessness, I still want to know then with utter conviction. The only way to make sure of that is to come to know now. Get it done now, and then it's done. So yeah, it is all of the Noumenon perceiving. There isn't anything other than that. There never was this fictional character that says me. And there isn't even such a thing as mind, really, or thoughts. Anything arising out of this great space of our being, Noumenon, awareness, consciousness, has to be made out of consciousness, really, doesn't it? No matter what it looks like. So if I were you now, I'd just kind of sit with this softly, throughout the rest of your day, and just say, I'd just like to know that I'm not going to struggle with it. I'm just going to chill out with it a bit and see what epiphanies come. Because whether you think you're ready or not, or worthy or not of this realization, it is already what you are. There's nothing to do with worthiness or even readiness. It's just that point where I'm finally ready to see that this might be very different to what I've thought about myself. Challenging the ideas that come up that say it's a really bad idea to go into this realization. You're going to lose something really valuable, whatever your mind is saying. You won't be able to go to work when you recognize this. You won't be able to be a parent. You won't be able to care about anyone or anything. All the things that my mind said, how are you going to care about paying the bills if you realize you're utter emptiness and that everything is emptiness? None of that is true. You actually care more, fall deeply, deeply in love with everything because it seemed to be your own self. Even the bills, even work.